Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass. Thank you for watching this Ag Forecast, brought to you by Agrible, the Maker's Morning Farm Report. Our software gives growers the insights to make the best decisions possible about their operations. Well, I want to start off by showing you the hazards map from weather.gov for Thursday. We have a huge section of the country that is right inside of the ring of fire. A large kind of ridge in the flow of the jet stream has kind of occupied the central states and allowed quite a bit of heat and humidity to build into the center part of the country. We saw on Wednesday temperatures well over 100 degrees stretching up through the center part of the country, basically going from Nebraska and Kansas all the way back over to St. Louis, Missouri. We expect to see the continuation of these excessive heat warnings all the way through Saturday. Now, what's more important, in my opinion, in the short term is taking a look at where we've seen the precipitation and where we have not seen the precipitation. Because as that ring of fire kind of sets up, it's going to determine which fields, which have been dry in some locations, are going to be getting rain through the end of this week. So, last 30 days of precipitation expressed as a percent of normal is what you've been looking at for a few moments. Now, what we're looking at here is some locations have been very wet. Northern Illinois, parts of Wisconsin, parts of kind of eastern Iowa, and then of course all the flooding that we've been seeing here in parts of Indiana and Ohio. We've been discussing how it is this corridor right in through here where we've seen some of the drought stress, really dry in parts of the Dakotas. It's hard to kind of express how dry it has been in some of these locations. But as you take a look at this, I want to step forward and just show you the last 14 days. And this is where we've really seen the drought intensify in some locations. A big area that I'm watching, of course, is going to be the eastern half of both North and South Dakota, western Iowa, and this region right down here in parts of Missouri and Illinois around St. Louis. Parts of Kansas and Nebraska have been quite dry as well, so we need to be seeing where the precipitation is going to set up in the short term. We'll take a look at that forecast in just a few minutes, but I want to show you this first. You see, early in the morning on Wednesday, storms blew up in western South Dakota and western and southern parts of North Dakota, and then they raced across parts of the Dakotas, across parts of southern Minnesota into Wisconsin before really producing this beautiful squall line, although damaging, that went through Chicago later on in the evening. What is important to see about this animation is the region that was largely missed by the thunderstorm activity today. Even this lighter stuff that came through late in the evening was not kind of the drought busting rains that we'd hoped to get. And even with that, these storms moved so quickly that even though the precipitation was intense, it didn't put down just lots and lots and lots of rain in some locations. I'm talking, better than 2 or 3 inches. So this is a region that was missed by the first 2 rounds of storms that we saw on Wednesday. Now, as I mentioned, those storms did quite a bit of damage. Here are the storm reports from Wednesday, and we can see where the storm started off, right where I just said, right in through here. They eventually kind of blew out into that larger bow echo, producing nearly 200 reports of severe straight line winds. There was a lot of damage to fields, kind of everywhere we see these blue dots. Now, one thing that was kind of neat to look at this is that in total, when you look at the entirety of kind of North America here, 204,000 plus lightning strikes. And look, you can see again that kind of trail of thunderstorm activity from parts of Montana into the Dakotas and then stretching over here toward Chicago and into Indiana. A lot of storms. You can also see the kind of ring of fire nature to this. And this is what happens when a big dome of heat builds in the center part of the country. Now, just to kind of show you something neat, Barry Butler, great guy to follow on Twitter, took some fantastic pictures of the skyline in Chicago, showed a couple of the tallest buildings in the city getting struck nearly at the same time. So this was a pretty active storm system. Now, this is what I want to point out. Where those storms traversed over the last 24 hours as of 11 p.m. on Wednesday night, you can see that the locations that were missed, which was right in through here, these areas are some of the driest areas right now in the Corn Belt. And so therefore we need to see if there's any chance at precipitation right in through where I'm drawing here over the next 24 to 48 hours and then beyond. And of course, it's been dry in parts of Nebraska and Kansas as well, but we do have quite a bit more irrigation efforts going on here than we do right in through this stretch. So let's take a look at what we're looking at in terms of the forecast. Here we're looking at the flow of the atmosphere on Thursday. And this is important to note because of this ridge and its position in through this area. We have a chance for more showers and storms in this area here, which will be getting into parts of the Dakotas, and also for more ridge riders that come right over into parts of Minnesota, into Wisconsin, maybe even northern Illinois again. Everybody that's under this dome, though, of heat right in through here and this kind of place where you see the winds kind of circulating around this area, it's going to be really tough to get precipitation in here. If we do, it'll definitely be hit or miss. So here we go. Thursday, Storm Prediction Center again, watching parts of Wyoming, parts of North and South Dakota, parts of Nebraska for storms to blow up. And you can kind of see the ridge riding nature of these storms as we get back over here into the eastern part of the Corn Belt. Again, right in here under that dome of heat, notice the void of kind of thunderstorm activity. Similar story on Friday as the system kind of pushes east. We again get a chance for more showers and storms, potentially some severe storms. But what I want to know is, are we going to get showers and storms blowing up right in through this area? And right now, I'm going to show you something from the WPC here. And what I want to make a point is that some of the models are really jumping around with the location of this precipitation. So I'm going to look for some different guidance here. This is showing us the precipitation, total accumulated precipitation from NOAA, basically looking at the next 3 days, starting late in the night on Wednesday. And what we have is multiple chances in this area for getting showers and storms. Now, the question is are we going to be getting those showers and storms in parts of northwestern Iowa? I think that the probability of that occurring is a little bit lower than I would like it to be. I'd like it to be a much higher chance of getting some storms here, as it would be for the Dakotas. But with the nature of this kind of ring of fire pattern, which you see here, that's just what happens. It tends to push these storms a little bit farther to the north, and that's what we saw on Wednesday. Notice, though, that parts near St. Louis, which are going to be getting triple-digit heat for the next 3 or 4 days, they're not going to be getting much rain at all, and neither is parts of kind of central Illinois, which are dry as well. And of course, if you're in Kansas, Missouri, you're right underneath that dome of heat, and you're really going to be missing out over the next 3 days. Well, let's talk about those temperatures. Here's a look at Friday afternoon's high temperatures, and this is what the map is going to look like Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for the most part. We see that, as I have contoured here in black, 90 degrees stretching across a huge section of the Corn Belt, and you can also see shades getting up over triple-digit heat in a large section of where we grow corn and soybeans and wheat in this country. What's also interesting is that overnight lows on Thursday into Friday and Saturday, well, I've contoured in black here for Friday a 70-degree isotherm, showing us that our overnight temperatures are going to be in the 70s, possibly even upper 70s, approaching 80 in some locations. So its overnight lows are very hot, and this is crucial because we are right now kind of in the heart of the pollination time period for corn. Now, by the time we get into Monday, look at what happens. We get a bit of a shift in the flow pattern, and we start to see the hotter temperatures knock back down into, parts of the south central plains. And that's because we have a shift in the upper level flow pattern. This is what it looks like. By Monday, we see a broader trough kind of spreading out over the eastern part of the Corn Belt. Now, west of there, things are a little bit disorganized. We don't see a really kind of organized flow pattern with a big trough or a big ridge. We kind of just see a few small features kind of dominating the flow. But this is a more broad feature that will help cool things down after the weekend. But check this out. By the time I fast forward into next week, let's get all the way to Thursday, the 27th. This is some of the stuff I'm really starting to get concerned about as we get into the month of August, and here's why. We see that the flow pattern as projected by the GFS model tends to push a pretty large ridge up into the kind of the Bering Sea area and a rather broad trough here over the Gulf of Alaska. Now at present, at least getting into the end of July, because of the presence of decent kind of troughing action, if you want to call it that, over the Hudson, the ridge gets pinched out west, and this favors decent flow, at least those northwest flow and thunderstorms that we could get for the eastern half of the Corn Belt. But I want to show you something, a quick analysis here. This is what the flow pattern of the atmosphere looked like when you look at the month that began on June 15th through July 15th. You see, we tended to favor a broad trough over the Bering Sea. That pushed kind of a broader trough here over the Hudson, and we had the ridge forming out west. We saw that break down temporarily, pushing this ridge over the central states, which gave us the heat that we're experiencing right now through the end of this week. Now, I point this out because of this. When I start to look out toward the end of this month, there's a pretty good clue that we're seeing this ridging action happening over the Bering Sea. And why I'm concerned about that is when this tends to set up, it might disrupt the flow of the atmosphere, maybe 15 or 20 days after this particular event sets up, such that we lose the control of that Hudson kind of bay trough. And why I'm concerned about that is that may allow our ridge to broaden out. All of that happens in concert with the development of this trough you see here in the Gulf of Alaska. Now, just understand me, I'm looking out kind of longer term, getting into the month of August here, the end of July and the first half of August. There are some signals that say we're not done with the heat and the potential dryness as of yet. Again, I'm uncertain about this. This is just my kind of first look at what I think we're going to see for the month of August. But we did get the long-range European model in a couple of days ago, and it is favoring, look at this, a pretty decent warm bias for a big section of the Corn Belt. It is probably overdoing the cooler pattern that you see right here, or at least biasing it toward the cooler weather we're going to get at the beginning. And I know it looks cool down here in the Four Corners area in the southern plains, but remember, a couple of degree cool bias here is still warm, but this is showing me an active monsoonal flow pattern. So that was a lot to digest as we kind of look out into the month of August, but I wanted to key you in on a few of the patterns that I'm going to be watching very, very closely in the coming days to develop, because it could signal some more stress for both the corn and soybean crop as we get into that month of August. My big point is I don't think we're done with the heat stress after things kind of cool off after this weekend. And it will be crucial to watch the flow pattern over the next 48 hours to see if that really dry stretch in the Corn Belt does get some thunderstorm activity. I'll be watching the radar closely, and I'll give you my next update on Monday to see where we got those thunderstorms and if they came in the regions that we needed them to come through. With that, I'll wrap up this video. We hope you look forward to Agrible's next Ag Forecast on Monday. To get Morning Farm Report for your operations, complete with a daily email that shows a snapshot of your field conditions each morning, go to morningfarmreport.com. Sign up for that free account. Full grower accounts are free if you sign up for our Sustainable Yield Program or for our growers who work with ADM merchandisers. Thank you so much for your attention. Hope you look forward to that next update on Monday. Thank you.